But I want your take on this.
Sure.
Jan Brewer, meeting with the president right now, they couldn't be further apart on their view of immigration reform, except that they both agree there needs to be some in this country. What's happening in that meeting right now?
Great photo opportunity. I mean, at the end of the day, she is very firm on her position. The president's firm on his position. The federal government has made it clear they're going to go after this particular law, and she's saying, bring it on. And so, fine, the two of them have an opportunity to say, we met, we talked, we have a philosophical difference. That's frankly what's going to come out of it, because she is not going to back down because the voters there have spoken.
All right, so they feel, and many people in Arizona feel, they have brought this issue to the fore again, after it fell back, largely because of the economy, and that this is going to force the federal government's hand. So never mind just challenging Arizona's law.
It already has forced the federal government's hands. The president has already announced a number of troops that are going to the border. It is forcing Congress to recognize that unless they do something, all of a sudden you're likely going to have other border states begin to step up and do their own thing.
Will they come up with something that makes sense for this country?
Well, here's the fundamental problem. This is an issue no one will be satisfied. On the left, on the right, in the center. That has been the fundamental problem. So you don't have a natural constituency that will say politically, hey, this is great. Democrats are saying, look, we could possibly get significant Hispanic support as a result of advancing immigration reform. But at the meantime, they're recognizing that it is a lightning rod to folks who are not Hispanic. So what does that mean when it comes to the election? So that's the problem. There are no clear-cut winners here, but this is one of those tough issues where members of Congress need to do a gut check, stop playing games politically, and say, we have to solve this. It's just like Social Security. You can't keep putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. This is why you were elected. You are there to make the tough decisions, so do it.
All right, but in an environment where these particularly Democrats, but incumbents generally, are just getting beaten back over a number of issues, and there's a sentiment spreading across the country that we don't want you guys fixing everything.
Well, no, first of all, I disagree with it. I think what people are saying is we want reasonable individuals making decisions. I think if you ask, look, first of all, the polling data is clear. Americans know and want us to address this. The problem is you have gutless politicians who are afraid of losing their jobs. That goes back to the whole notion of a tough vote. And so the point is we need politicians who are going to stand up, be accountable, and accept the responsibility, as opposed to say, oh, I don't want to have a tough vote because I don't want to have to go back home to explain this to the voters because I might lose.
So what's the best way to do that then? Should they poll their voters and see what they want?
Look, first, clearly I think you should poll your voters.
Because our polling indicates people want change. They want immigration fixed.
Okay, but here's the problem with that. People say they want change, want it fixed, but once you begin to say, what does it look like, then all of a sudden it gets a little unclear what the actual means.
Does fixed mean amnesty? Does fixed mean throwing people out of the country? What does it mean?
This is one of those issues that is a defining issue that I would liken to the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, where a politician has to make an uncomfortable choice.
But wasn't the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, weren't those clearer cut?
Well, they were clear cut, but you still had major opposition to those particular laws. But the point there is you had politicians who made tough choices, even if it meant them losing their job. That's the problem. We don't have enough political leaders who have the freedom and frankly the moxie to say, okay, you know what, I have to do this, because otherwise this is what's going to happen. It's not going to happen before 2010. So what happens in 2011? People will begin to say, well, you know, there's a presidential election coming up in 2012. So just like Social Security gets passed down, well, the next Congress, the next Congress, the next Congress. So 10 years from now, we're in the same position saying, hey, let's do something about immigration reform, and nothing ever gets done.